On April 23, 2020, a young mother in Norfolk, Virginia told a gang she never wanted to join that she was done. Their answer was simple. She had to die. What followed was a botched execution that turned into a torture session almost beyond imagination. The fact that she's here today to tell her story is nothing short of a modern miracle. I'm Chris Godsick, and this is Chasing Evil. Before we get started, we're going to do two things that we've never done on the podcast before. First, we're starting a GoFundMe page. Once you hear about our guest story today, you'll know why. And you'll know why she needs the help. So the GoFundMe page is called Helping Brianna. That's Helping Brianna. The second, I'm going to give you a little bit of a warning. Today is not the day to listen to this episode if you're feeling fragile or you're not prepared to hear the details of a brutal attack. So just put this episode aside. Otherwise, we're going to delve into the world of gang violence. First and foremost, I am honored to have Brianna Arrington on the podcast. Brianna endured, as she called it, the incident, and she is still recovering and optimistic about her future. Welcome, Brianna.
Hello.
Hello. And those who pursued justice on her behalf. First, we have the lead detective, who at the time was with the Norfolk Police Department, now with the Chesapeake Police Department, Matt Walsh. Also, a big shout out to Chesapeake PD for allowing us to use their swanky conference room. Chesapeake really is the city that cares. Also, from the Norfolk Police Department, Lance Roberson, and at the time, Nicole. We're not using Nicole's last name because of some of the work that she's involved in. They were both task force officers assigned to America's Task Force, the Capital Area Regional Fugitive Task Force of the U.S. Marshals Service. And a shout out to Don Snyder for making this podcast happen. Thanks, Don. We have Senior Inspector Chris Lure, who is also the team leader and kind of runs Norfolk. And Katie Bai, who was at the time the Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney for the city of Norfolk. Hello, Katie.
Hi, Chris.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And I will say there was so much emotion attached to this case that Nicole flew in from Phoenix just to be here. And Brianna and Katie each drove 4 hours just to be here. So thank you very much. And once you hear the details of this, you'll understand why. So before we get into the incident, Brianna, let's talk about your upbringing, kind of how you got to the point where you came into contact with these people that we will talk about later. But let's talk about how you grew up and the circumstances and where.
Growing up, I really didn't have a stable place. I was going from house to house until the foster care system decided to take me out of the family completely, and I ended up in foster care.
Well, before you got to foster care, did you have a two-parent upbringing?
I never had a two-parent upbringing. It was just my mother, but my mother had some issues going on with herself that caused a lot of issues as far as me being in the home and a lot of concerns, to the point CPS got involved.
Because you were a victim of child abuse.
Yeah, my mom has 13 child abuse cases, only with one child. So they kind of had me in and out of different homes.
Right. And we'll talk about it a little bit later, but it got a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And where was your dad growing up?
My dad wasn't around. He didn't come around until after he found out I was in foster care. And by that time, I was 15. Mm-hmm. And it was a few months before I turned 16.
Right.
So he really wasn't
a factor.
Involved.
Mm-hmm. So you get into the foster care system, and some people have a really bad time in foster care. Was that your experience?
No, my foster mom, she was the best, actually. I actually did better in my life in foster care than I did with my mom and my dad, if that makes sense.
Why is that?
Because she was more of a positive home, stable. She knew how to deal with me the right way, and just the environment altogether, and then the encouragement that she gave me, it helped me a lot. Like, my grades were better. I was on honor roll with my foster mother, but with my father and my real mother, that didn't happen.
Right. Okay. And you told me you spent a lot of time in church.
Yeah, she had me in church 3, 4, maybe 5 times a week.
That's a lot of church.
Yeah. So I was more stable and more able to get myself together in foster care. But once I got out, things kind of just...
How long were you in foster care for?
From 10 to 15.
Uh-huh. And then what happened at 15?
My dad, my mom tried to get child support for me, so my dad found out that I was in foster care, and he came and got me out of foster care. But when he came and got me out, that didn't last long until I started back onto...
Why didn't it last long with your dad?
When he came and got me out of foster care, his family wasn't aware. The family that lived in his house wasn't aware of another child. So it took a lot to adjust, and it was a lot of...
It sounds like they did not welcome you with open arms.
It was not so welcoming. It was just hard with my dad in the beginning, so it caused a lot of problems. When, of course, I was a teenager and I got rebellious.
Right.
I kind of dropped out of school. I was still going to school, but it was only like maybe once or twice a week because I was working the other days that I'm supposed to be in school.
Okay.
So
and was that your idea to get you working? Yeah,
my dad, he worked a lot, so he really wasn't home, and I just decided, okay, well, I'm kind of on my own, so let me get some money to feed myself or do for myself.
Right.
And then I started staying at friends' house when I would feel uncomfortable if something else was going on in the house, so I ended up back on the streets.
Got it. And how did you survive on the streets?
Friends was, like, different friends would give me places to sleep and give me food, and there was this one woman that I had a friend, her mother was in church a lot, so she would, like, give me clothes and buy me lotion and body wash and stuff like that and give me food. And then...
So at this point, you're in survival mode.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So my cousin told me about this Christian program at the Salvation Army that she goes to, and they provide free food, and it was hot in the summertime.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, somewhere there's free food and AC, so I continued to go there, and then the lady realized that I was sleeping on the streets, and she was like, hey, I have a home, I have a few boys that live with me, they have girlfriends that live with them inside the home, you can also come stay here. And then she started sending pictures from my Facebook to her sons. What's it called when you're in jail and you send them pictures? JPEG, not JPEG.
You talking about jail mail?
Yeah, jail mail. She would
Okay.
send him pictures, and then she started making us talk on the phone and stuff. So he got out, I believe, August 25th when I was 17. She put us in the same room together, and we started dating, and then I got pregnant, and then he started putting his hands on me, and then I ended up back with my mother.
Okay.
And then I ended up going with my aunt and uncle because I ran away from my mom's house.
Because your
Okay.
mom...
She was abusing me. So my uncle and my aunt allowed me to just, hop around there. There was a situation where this guy I was talking to on the phone for 3 months, we never met in person, and my aunt had me staying at somebody's house that I wasn't really too comfortable with.
Right.
Some stuff started happening, and so I called this guy that I never met. I just know we talked on social media for 3 months, and then his mother allowed me to live with them.
Right. You're just going from one place to the next?
Yeah, so when his mother allowed me to live with them, I told her everything that was going on. So she would let me stay there. And then my aunt, she would let me come back on the weekends. So I was just going place to place for a while.
Just looking for a roof.
Just looking for a roof.
Right.
Somewhere safe. So I went back to Portsmouth. I got my own place. My mom, she was helping me out. She was giving me rides in the morning, drop me off at work at 4 o'clock, then pick me up at 12 o'clock at night and do it again the same day. So she's like, well, move back in. I'm driving you everywhere. I'm taking your kid to daycare. And so I moved back in. It didn't last 24 hours, maybe, before we got into it. And then...
Is that the time that your mom reached for a knife?
Yes. She found the Black and Mild pack.
She found the what, I'm sorry?
Black and Mild pack, like tobacco.
Uh-huh.
She found that in my underwear drawer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she would get upset that I'll be... Mind you, I'm like 21 years old.
Right.
She would get upset that it's a Saturday night and I'm playing the PlayStation at 3 o'clock in the morning. Mind you, I'm 21 years old.
You're not the only 21-year-old to do that. Yeah, that's
at
for
least
sure.
I'm not at the club or something.
Yeah, good point. How does finding tobacco in your underwear drawer lead to your mom grabbing a knife and trying to stab you?
My mom is controlling, so if it's something she doesn't like, then she just goes crazy.
Okay.
Like I was wearing ponytails. I was 18 years old wearing ponytails in high school while I'm pregnant because of how she wanted to portray me as this little girl. Uh-huh. And that's not...
And she ended up cutting you in the face.
Yes, she she slightly cut me in the face. It was slightly,
right,
but it was still enough for them to take a picture, and then the police was like, okay, well, you have to separate from them.
Okay.
I mean, from her. Maybe 2 days before the cut with in the face, my friend took me to a party, and that's where I met these people at the party. Literally, like maybe 2 days before it happened.
Right.
And so when she cut me in the face, I was just like calling people like, hey, can I sleep in your shed? One of the girls let me sleep at the nursery place that her great grandma was at. So I stayed there for a night or two. Uh-huh. And then that's when I met this guy. And I told him, I was like, hey, I'm sleeping in the shed. It's close by where the party was. Is there any way you could help me out? And he was like, I know these people who has a room. They was like, hey, if you give me $75, I'll let you rent out a room.
And did you have any idea who the people were that you were now coming into contact with and you were having to trust, but there was a roof?
No, I didn't know who these people were at all until I went to that party like 2 days before I got into that situation with my mother. Never met them before. I just knew somebody who knew them, and I just went to a party with them, and that was it.
So did you know there was any gang affiliation?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Until I actually lived with them, and then I was telling my friends, I was like, just a little weird stuff going on. They telling me to walk out of the room so they can have talks and stuff, and they're acting crazy and stuff. And then that's when, after a while, she told me, she was like, they might be gang affiliated. Then they started getting comfortable and doing stuff in front of me. Then I was like, okay, yeah, this is definitely gang affiliated. Guns and stuff everywhere. I don't really want my child around this.
But they may have been gangs, there may have been guns, there may have been drugs, but these were people that were treating you well.
Yeah. Like, once they found out that I was in college and stuff, like, for example, Killer was the first one that was like, oh, you're in school, you're catching a bus to, because I was going to TCC in Portsmouth, and he was like, oh, you're catching a bus, I'll watch your son. He was the first person that said, hey, we'll watch your son, my girlfriend has a kid, we don't mind doing that while you're in school. So he was the first person to try to help me out. And he was like, if you need a ride to school instead of catching a bus, we'll help you and stuff. I kind of trusted them because of the fact that they had a kid already. So I'm thinking, okay, they seem nice to me. And at the time, they wasn't doing stuff too bad in front of me.
Okay.
And as long as they kept, so it was 2 separate houses. So they were supposed to keep my son in the first house where the first kid was. So I felt like, okay, as long as he stays in the first house and not the second house, he would be safe.
Okay. And you're the trusting type, so okay.
The trusting type is what gets me in trouble.
Okay.
They kind of helped me look for a job.
They were also helping you with meals, right?
Yeah, they were helping feed me. They were helping feed my kid at one point.
I mean, this is what a family does.
Yeah.
This is what you can rely on people to do. This is seemingly a good situation, right?
And then once they learned that I was having a lot going on with my mother, they helped me get my stuff back from my mother.
Right. More specifically, they helped you break into her house.
Yeah, they helped me break into her house and steal my TV and steal my PlayStation and steal my clothes.
Okay.
And once I got it, we just went back to the place that we were living at.
Okay.
And then after a while, I had an ex-crazy boyfriend that would sit at my job and threaten me all the time. So they helped me with that too.
Okay.
Like they would come up there and scare him away or something like that.
And the baby's daddy was not in the picture at all?
No, nowhere in the picture. He's in and out of jail for the last 8 years.
8 years?
Yes, in and out for the last 8 years. So at the time, he was in jail.
So this is your new family.
Yeah.
Your needs are being met. And they're being nice to you and your son. Mm-hmm. Does that bring us to movie night? So,
Yeah.
okay, so let's talk about movie night. And by the way, we're going to mention several names and we'll, kind of dial down in on them, but there are about 10 names that we're going to mention. And there's different names, there's street names, there's legal names. So we're going to try to keep this straight for everyone as we kind of get into this world. It all starts with, no, it doesn't start with movie night. You get jumped in prior, right?
That was on movie night.
But wait, it wasn't the same night that you got jumped in and jumped out.
It was movie night.
What you had told Detective Walsh previously is that a few weeks before this happened, that they had jumped you in, that it was Say-So and Skylar mostly, Thump, who made that decision, and that the girls beat you for 27 seconds and gave you the name of YG Baltimore as your gang name. And that was a couple of weeks before this happened, before the incident.
Yeah, you kept on failing your G-check, and you kept on failing getting ejected. Because when you jumped in, you fell a couple times to your knees, which caused them to continue beating you during that 27 seconds, because it would reset. The 27 seconds would reset if you couldn't stand on your feet.
Yeah, that I don't.
And then
I
you're-
might have got that mixed up with the time order because
Our understanding of being jumped in is partly from Brianna and partly from some of the interviews with other people in the gang who were charged in this and other things we know about generally how this gang operates. So, for example, what we believe happened based on the totality of the evidence is that prior to this night, Brianna was jumped in, and in order to do that as a girl, the other girls in the gang would beat her with hands and fists for 27 seconds, and she had to remain standing during that time. If she went to her knees or fell down, they would restart the 27 seconds. But once you withstand those 27 seconds, which is after the street that the gang originated in Los Angeles, then you would become a member of the gang. And that was our understanding from all of the evidence as to what had occurred with Brianna.
27th Street.
Yes.
Translated
Yes.
into 27 seconds of a beating.
Correct.
Okay. What was movie night? Describe movie night.
Thump told me about the people getting together, doing something for the kids. It was the Lion King movie that came out with Beyonce in it. And we had this stimulus check, so I went to go get a few pizzas. And once I went upstairs, things started getting crazy.
So some of the things that we're talking about with Brianna, the sequence of events might be a little bit different.
It is very common for victims who have certain injuries and certain traumas, especially those that affect the brain, to have difficulty remembering certain things. For example, it is very common for people not to remember the order of things, even though they may remember what happened, what went first, what went second, what went last. Dates and times, things like that can be very, very difficult to remember. And Brianna has obviously had a lot of very significant trauma, both physically and mentally as a result of this. And so her recall, especially in terms of what order certain things happened, is understandably not always perfect.
Yeah. So if you've read an article or you were at the trial or there's testimony, we're not trying to catch her up. We're going with the way she's, remembering things as we're talking about it today. Okay. So things started getting crazy. What does that mean?
I can't remember exactly what happened as soon as I walked in the house. I know they grabbed the pizza.
Okay, what'd you forget?
I believe a few days before, I was doing podcasts at a guy's house with a whole bunch of people, and once they found out who I was hanging out with, they told me to be careful and for me to get away from them. But I'm just like, oh, it's a little too late for that. I live with them.
You're out on the balcony talking to Say-So.
Mm-hmm.
Say-So is the leader of the gang, or is it the OOG?
Yeah, he's the double OG.
And you make a determination that this gang life is not for you, that you want to leave, or as they put it, get your walking papers.
I stated to him that, when they kept me around, I just wanted to be around for the help,
Right.
and for the family that they were pretending to be to me,
Right.
not for gang-related stuff.
Right.
And I stated to him, like, I just wanted to be part of the family. Y'all were helping me out. That's it. That's all I wanted.
Right.
I didn't care what y'all did. As long as y'all didn't do it to me, that's none of my business.
Sure.
As long as I stay out of it, I'm good. And I didn't want to be a part of that, all the extra stuff that was going on. And before he went back in, he was like, please don't say that. He was like, please just say you want to be in it. Please just say you want to be in it. And he just kept begging.
He had some idea of what was going to happen if you actually went through with the request for your walking papers.
Yeah.
And he was pleading with you not to take that route.
Yes.
Okay.
He was like that. They put in a good word for me to be in it, and I was going to disappoint the females that wanted me in it or who put in a good word. So he just kept begging me, and then he went inside and told them, and then things just got crazy from there.
And so what happened as you remember after that?
Ruby Red, she started saying I was a spy for a different gang.
Right.
Because she wanted to be involved with the guy that I was dealing with.
Got it.
Lawless.
And Lady Lawless will say she is head of the women in the gang.
Yes.
Okay. And the official title of the gang, which we'll just introduce at this point, is, Matt?
The Rolling 20 Outlaw Bloods.
Okay. And they are associated with the Bloods of Los Angeles?
Yeah, this it was originally from Los Angeles, and then they have sets throughout the United States.
Okay. So it's a serious gang.
Lawless started saying that Thump had put me in it, and I was disappointing her, and they said I knew too much, I've been around too much, and I had to die.
You had to die.
Yes.
So Lady Lawless went from being someone you had described as a mother figure and giving you advice and somebody who you thought you could rely on. In an instant, she's calling for your death.
Yeah. Once Ruby Red said that I was a spy, Lawless just completely flipped.
And I know they were looking at your phone through, for messages. But how did you feel when you first heard that word come out of Lawless's mouth?
I was scared.
Terrifying. I cannot imagine what that must be like, being in that room. Your child is in the apartment, and you hear that. And there's the feeling of helplessness, I would imagine, that you felt. So we're in the apartment. Lawless says you got to go.
And Ruby Red.
And Ruby Red. And Say-So, the leader, is saying what?
He didn't want to go along with it because of the feelings that he had for me. So, if I'm not mistaken, they started saying stuff to him and started telling him he had to because of the leadership that he had.
If he's a guy who is worthy of being a leader, he will kill you.
Yes.
When the attack started, What do you remember about that?
I remember the bleach. I remember the taking my socks off and putting in my mouth and beating on me. I remember the choking, the trying to snap my neck. But I just don't remember what went first.
Okay. Because the incident is especially hard for Brianna to recall all the facts, because some of it she was conscious for and some of it she wasn't. And
absolutely,
it's about as a traumatic experience as you could have. Matt and Katie, through their investigation, pieced together a lot of the story of what happened so that they were able to present it in court. So Matt and Katie are going to describe the story, and I wanted everyone to know why we were approaching it that way.
So the night that Brianna came over for family night for the pizza party with the kids and with the other gang members, at one point she wanted her walking papers, and that started the assault. At one point, Brianna did try leaving with her son. At that time, the gang members already started deleting things out of her phone, any knowledge, any evidence, essentially. They had a group text going on Facebook, and a lot of that information, a lot of their conversations was in that text thread, so they started deleting themselves from the thread or deleting this information from Brianna's phone, and that's when Brianna was trying to leave.
And they were already thinking, look, whatever evidence there is, we got to start destroying it now.
Absolutely, and that was all revealed when I got search warrants back from Facebook showing exactly when they started deleting things and who was deleting what.
Mm-hmm.
At that time frame is when Brianna tried leaving in her car, and when she's outside is when the decision was made that no, she's not going to be able to just walk away from this. And that's when you were brought back upstairs by Lawless and them, because as soon as she got back upstairs, that's when Say So ended up putting her in a chokehold, putting Brianna in a chokehold, which caused her to go unconscious. And that's when him and Flash began trying to snap her neck, because they had to think of a way on how to kill her. So the first thing they tried doing was trying to snap her neck, which caused her...
Out in the car?
Not in the car. You didn't pass out until you got up into the house. As soon as Say So put you in a chokehold, that's when you went unconscious, because they talked about how you ended up defecating on yourself because of how severe the chokehold was. And that's when they tried breaking your neck. You were laying on your stomach, and they were trying to snap her neck and having her neck. The way that the other gang members described it is that Brianna was laying on her stomach, but her head and face was facing the ceiling. Mm-hmm. They just couldn't get it to snap over. So they tried, that didn't work. So that's when they ended up, at one point, stabbing her in her back, in her lower back.
Multiple times
in her lower back. At that time, they then dragged her to the bathroom, where they decided to start pouring bleach down her throat to see if maybe they could drown her through the bleach. Which caused her black hoodie that she was wearing at the time to get stained with bleach that was in her car later on, found by me.
Bleach was present for a lot of things that happened that night because they were very conscious of evidence. So they were deleting things out of the phone. They were talking about wearing gloves. They were talking about using bleach to destroy fingerprints and DNA. They were very conscious as they were doing this of what evidence they would be leaving for an eventual investigation.
Mm-hmm. And then that's when the decision was made that obviously stabbing you wasn't going to kill you, snapping your neck wasn't going to kill you, the bleach wasn't going to kill you, so then the decision was made to actually just shoot her.
Didn't they also spend some time kicking her in the head?
Yeah, they throughout all this, they were assaulting her, kicking her, punching her. They all partook in some level throughout the assault. Some people did the stabbing, some people did the assaulting, some people did the bleach pouring. And then ultimately the decision was made just to take her somewhere and shoot her in the head.
Okay. And before we get to that, Brianna, when Matt's talking about this, is any of this coming back to you at all?
Yeah, I remember being in the kitchen before Killer and Flash carried us down the stairs, because I remember them pouring the bleach down my throat, and I kept trying not to swallow it while I was in the kitchen. When Flash was carrying me down the stairs, I asked him why, and he just said, "I'm sorry, I have to."
Right. I mean, at that point, after so much physical abuse, do you remember if you were in pain? Do you remember if you were at just conscious enough to be aware of your surroundings but not feeling anything? Do you have any recollection?
I remember being in pain. I remember being in pain. I remember the bleach. I just wanted my son out of there so he didn't have to see it, because they was doing it in front of him for a while. But I definitely remember the bleach. They tried the bleach for a while. I remember they did try, before they could get me downstairs, they did try the snapping the neck a few times before they got me downstairs. I know they went through a lot of bleach. They kept trying to make me swallow it. I do remember. The only times I can't remember is I black out once I get to the car.
Okay. Matt, what happens after?
At that point, there was Flash and Killa. They had brought her to her vehicle, and they chose the decision, or made the decision, to drive her to another location in the city of Norfolk to actually do the execution. They ended up finding a side street where they felt was going to be a good location. It was at a dead end, where they subsequently end up shooting Brianna one time in the head through her left eye, or through her right eye, and out her right ear. They shot at her 3 times, but only one time was she actually shot. Flash was also part of another gang prior to this, and his name was 3 Shots, so his signature move was to fire 3 shots. So she was shot at 3 times, and only one time she was actually shot.
But it went through her eye, into her head, and out her ear.
Correct.
By her ear.
And that was, from our understanding, looking at the vehicle, she was in the back seat of the car at that time when they shot her. She was found in the front seat. She may not remember telling me this in the hospital or not, but she described how she crawled up to the front seat and just was laying in her driver's seat just waiting for death.
Right.
Because she had just been shot in the head. She had no idea what was going on. And that's what eventually got us called to the scene, was a Good Samaritan neighbor in that particular neighborhood called in saying, hey, I think there's a female that's hurt in this vehicle. And that's what brought police to the scene originally.
Right. So we're going to stop there for one moment and continue with your child's journey, because he's a part of this too. And Lawless wanted the same fate for him.
Yes. Lawless made the decision that they wanted to actually kill Brianna's son. But other gang members thought that would not be a good idea, given the fact that if they kill the child, that's going to bring a lot more of a police presence into this investigation a lot faster than it would be if we just killed Brianna. So there was some back and forth with the gang members on whether or not they wanted to kill the child. Ultimately, thank God, that decision wasn't made to kill the child.
And what happened to him then?
Ultimately, they described dropping the child off in a white, rich neighborhood, and it was in the Ghent neighborhood of Norfolk, which is a higher-end neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And they felt that it was a good location. Brianna's son was sitting on, if I remember correctly, Killa's lap in the back seat of the car, and they just pulled over on the side of the street around, I would have to say, around 3:30 in the morning.
What I remember from listening to some of these tapes was that he was sitting with Thump.
Yeah, there was multiple people in the vehicle.
Right. And this is one of the things that made me so angry, was listening to the tapes. Thump had her child on her lap, and she was talking about how close she felt with him and the fact that he would go to sleep on her and how they had this bond. And 3 minutes after, they were going to drop him off, just kick him out of the car and leave.
And I remember, I believe Thump was talking about how they could hear the little boy's cries as they drove away, as they left him on the sidewalk.
At
approximately 3 in the morning. He was found around 4:30 in the morning by a garbage truck driver doing his route. Found the child wandering the streets.
It's so infuriating to hear some of the details of this case and to listen to some of the interviews.
And at first, when I got to the scene originally, and we saw the car seat in the back of Brianna's vehicle, and there was blood on the car seat, so we were like, is there a child involved in this some way, somehow? And unbeknownst to me at the time, it was later told to me on scene that there was a child that was found wandering the streets in Norfolk around 4:30 in the morning. Brianna wasn't discovered in the neighborhood until about noon that day. So it was about 9 hours time frame when Brianna was just laying in the vehicle, just praying for death, as she described it. And then the child was found about an hour or so after he was dropped off in the neighborhood. So it wasn't until that time that we actually put two and two together that this child was going to belong to Brianna.
Right. And they left and they thought she was gone.
Yes, Killa and Flash came back and told the gang that she was dead. They had no idea she was alive yet.
I would say one thing that I think is, you talked about, losing faith in humanity. One thing that I would say that is good in this story is,
Thank you.
Matt mentioned the garbage man who found and called the police, and then the first officers who showed up there that day. They all stayed with him and sat with him. They watched, I want to say, Paw Patrol in the car with him, tried to get answers out of him. So what happened to him was terrible, but this garbage man and the first officers who got there were really, really exemplary. And so it doesn't take any of that away from him,
Right.
but there are good people who did what they could to help him out once they did find him.
So, Brianna, you wake up. Do you know where you are? Do you know what happened?
When I first wake up, I thought I was in some type of scary movie because they had the hospital had a Ouija board movie playing when I first woke up, and it scared the mess out of me. And I have this long tube in my nose, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here?
Right.
At first I thought that the girls from the gang brought me to the hospital because don't know if that was just a dream, a part of my coma or something, or if it was real. I remember waking up from the dream. I think it's a dream. I remember waking up and they said something about, they were looking in my face and it was like I need to go to the hospital for that. But at the time when I woke up, I didn't know that my eye was gone.
Right.
But all I can remember is if it was a dream or if it wasn't, as they were looking in my face and said, yeah, she would have to go to the hospital for that. And then everything goes black again.
Right.
And then that's when I wake up. So I'm thinking that they brought me there. But the first thing in my mind, I started freaking out because I'm like, okay, this Ouija board movie is playing.
Right.
This stuff is happening. I'm still trying to put two and two together. And so I try to leave. I tried to get up and leave. I thought my car was outside, but apparently not. Then once I started freaking out because the tube was in my nose, and then the lady came and just yanked it out. And then they told me I'm not supposed to be walking, and so I was a little freaked out. But after a while, I went to the bathroom and realized that my eye was gone.
They didn't tell you that prior.
No, they didn't tell me anything. They just told me I need to stay in my bed, and they put an alarm on my bed, so I wouldn't leave. Then they told me I wasn't supposed to walk by myself, but me not remembering what was going on, my first instance was get up and leave because
Right.
This stuff just happened. You don't know where is my son. Like, that was the first thing. Like, I'm in this hospital. Once I realized I'm not in the scary movie from the Ouija board thing that was going on, because that was playing while I was waking up. So I'm hearing it in the coma. And so I realized when I was in the hospital, I'm like, okay, well, where's my son? I need to leave. I need to get out of here to go find my son. So when they told me I couldn't leave, it was just a lot for me, especially going into the bathroom, and the first thing I seen was my eye was gone.
Right.
And not knowing that, and then I seen that I had a hole in the side of my head, and like I could stick my finger through it. So that was a lot for me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize all that stuff had happened.
Right.
And just waking up like that as a whole totally different person. And at one point, my face was more swollen when I woke up on one side. So it was just it was a lot. And realizing that I wasn't going to be able to leave, but then I just took it and was like, hey, I guess I'm just stuck here. And
Right.
there's nothing I could do. I just didn't know where my son was. Then I started reaching out to people to see like what was going on, what happened, and then the police came and told me everything.
So I originally was called in from home, told that there was a female that was found shot in the head in a car, and was called in for the homicide investigation, or pending homicide investigation. I'm part of the homicide squad. So if there's an injury to a person that most likely could result in death, they'll just pull a homicide detective in right in the beginning to run the investigation. So that's when I found out on the way there that Brianna made some comments to individuals about how she had done this to herself, where we're like, is this a failed suicide attempt, or is this something more? This is before I actually got to the scene and saw what that revealed to me, that this clearly wasn't a suicide attempt. And then once Brianna was obviously heavily medicated at first in the hospital, so I had to wait a couple days until I could actually have some conversations with her. And that's when I met Brianna for the first time. And we had, for a couple weeks, multiple conversations in the hospital. We enjoyed a lot of Jell-O together and a lot of Jeopardy. And we just sat in her room and just talked about what had transpired.
But initially, she was reluctant to do so.
At first, yeah. At first, she was reluctant, which I'm used to in my line of work. A lot of people don't want to talk to me at first. Isn't until reality kicks in or they have an opportunity to see exactly what transpired. It wasn't until after she got discharged and I was able to vet some of that information, verify with her and clarify with her what she was telling me was true and accurate, and then doing my own investigation into who these individuals were and who she was revealing to me, and seeing if I could paint the picture.
Okay. And at this time, everybody in the gang thinks Brianna's dead.
Yeah, it was during the time in the hospital is when they learned that she was still alive.
Okay.
And that was my fault.
In part your fault, yes, and in part...
That was my fault. I wanted to know what was going on, what happened, who was looking for me, where my child was. So I reached out to somebody who knew them.
Right.
And which was the dude that I was dealing with.
Right.
Who got you into this to begin with?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was, I guess, when one of them testified, the radio was on. They thought the radio was off, and then the code was the radio is on.
Yeah, that was during jail calls. Through the investigation, I'll listen to inmate phone calls, and a lot of these were recorded, or they're all recorded. And the ones that I listened to, that was talked about. Brianna, another street name was Radio. They would use radio as a code for her, and talk about being on, alive, off, dead. And because it was going back and forth in the beginning of whether or not Brianna was going to survive this.
Right.
And then when she had a conversation with the individual that got her into this gang or introduced her originally, that information floated out to the gang very quickly that she was very much alive.
And for a moment, there was a plan perhaps to finish the job while she was in the hospital?
Yes, they were talking about going into the hospital, either pulling plugs, or they jokingly said at one time about, we can't do it like it's in the movies. I mean, it's not like it's a movies. We can just walk into a hospital and kill somebody. But there was discussions in the beginning of how they're going to finish Brianna off, because they were not expecting her to survive.
Right. So, Matt, you're continuing to gather information and to build rapport with Brianna and enable her to tell you as much as she remembers. And Katie, as the Commonwealth's attorney, you're now brought into this.
Yes.
When you first heard about this case, I mean, I don't know the kinds of cases that you're dealing with normally, but how did this compare?
So at this time, I was doing primarily rapes, robberies, and murders as my bread and butter at the office. So these types of cases, and specifically the gang cases, were my specialty. I have done many types of cases that have similar sort of outcomes, but this was certainly, if not the most brutal, top 3 most brutal cases that I've ever worked on. And so pretty early on, within a day or two of the incident, Detective Walsh and I, a couple of other people, detectives and attorneys, started working together. And it was not a typical case in the sense of sometimes you know, like, right away who did it and you can go get a warrant. This was a case where we took a lot of time with Brianna to get the information, and we weren't rushing the case, because when we did get warrants and when we did pick them up, we wanted to have all of our ducks in a row.
Right.
And so I was sort of there as just a consultant, essentially, for Detective Walsh while he's getting all the information from Brianna and working to substantiate things. So get search warrants, like she says, there's Facebook communications about the gang. So let's get some search warrants for the Facebook of these particular people so we can substantiate some of the things she's saying. So we're sort of working behind the scenes to get as much information as we can from her before we actually go pick these people up.
Right.
And then as we start to feel like we have enough and that we're ready to start the process of actually arresting people and bringing them in to hold them accountable, which was about a month after the date of the incident.
Right.
That's when I worked with Detective Walsh to get the actual warrants taken out so that we could start the process of getting everyone taken into custody.
Because I needed as much information for the interrogation. And in this particular type of case, Norfolk, we would sometimes get the Commonwealth Attorney's Office involved right away, but in this particular one, I wanted Kate involved from the very beginning, given the fact of the complexity of the case and the severity of the brutal incident that happened. That we needed to work as a team right from the beginning.
So you spent that month gathering information.
I did over 100-something search warrants in this case, trying to get as much information as I could from cell companies, from Apple, from Google, from geofencing. I wanted to know as much as I could for the interrogations.
Right. And Katie, like you said, rapes and murders are your bread and butter, so perhaps you have a really good way of taking whatever emotion that might, come to somebody who doesn't deal in this world a lot and kind of keeping it in check. Were you able to do that with this case?
This was more difficult because Brianna survived and was a living, breathing victim there in front of me. We met after she was discharged from the hospital. Homicide cases, sometimes from a prosecutor perspective, can be easier than some other types of cases because there's finality with your victim. It's very sad, but you don't have to see the impact on that victim. You still are working with families and things like that,
right.
But there's some finality to it. Whereas with Brianna, what she was going through and knowing that she was going to have to deal with these difficulties for the rest of her life, it was just this stark reminder every single time you open the case file of everything that she had been through. And I will tell you, having done a lot of cases where people survive and a lot of cases where people don't, I have never seen somebody go through as much that Brianna did and survive it. Like, absolute medical miracle that she made it through. I've never seen somebody come through this alive like she did.
Well, you're a miracle.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is honestly the force of her will. Like, she was fighting back, even parts that she doesn't remember. She was fighting till the end to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
And she was with me the whole entire time through the court process. She wanted to be there every time somebody was sentenced, every time somebody was in court. She never shied away at all. She wanted to be there front and center to show them that this can't be accepted.
And I think now you know why we're setting up a GoFundMe page for Brianna. Once again, the GoFundMe page is Helping Brianna. That's Helping Brianna. Please give what you can. Any small amount would be greatly appreciated on her behalf. And that's where we'll leave this story. In the next episode, we'll talk about bringing these people to justice and Brianna's road to recovery and the obstacles she has to overcome. And finally, Chasing Evil is produced with the cooperation of the U.S. Marshals Service. It contains interviews with current and retired employees as well as other persons. Opinions, positions, and views expressed by any of them may not reflect the official views, positions, or policies of the United States Marshals Service. Stay safe, everyone.